didn't see something, but
She's in the last room.
Okay, I'm pushing it live now.
Okay.
I'm going on
I was just about to post. Should I hold off?
Yeah, I'm going on mute.
Okay. We are live. I think we are live. I think we've done. Unless I hear otherwise, we're gonna rock and roll.
Yay!
I feel like I'm at my news desk. And now we are reporting on Carmenere. Hello, how are you? Happy Friday.
Hello, so good to see you.
You too. A few exciting new things this week. One, we are on Facebook Live versus Instagram Live. This is a great new platform for us to play with, so we're excited to be here. Two, we have a very fun new camera angle for your kitchen.
Yes, so we can see right into the pot. Now, I want to test some lighting. We were having a little bit too much light before. It's still too much light. So we're going to go with the dim version until we figure this out.
It's like beam me up, Scotty, from the thing. So we will leave that off. The fireside glow is excellent. So welcome everyone to our third episode of Community Kitchen. We are so excited to be here. And every week we gather to make delicious food together, to drink really tasty wines, and to gather around our virtual table. And it's become such a delight every week, and I look forward to it. And I'm very excited about this week. So Julie, what are we cooking?
Oh, this is going to be such a great pairing. And I have really gone into the depths of the pantry for this, for everyone that's pantry cooking. So the fun thing about this recipe is it's going to be pulling lots of things that seem kind of boring together to make a really exciting, flavorful dish to go with this Carmenere, using a lot of canned goods and frozen goods, and a little bit of freshness too. So it's going to be a really nice stew. Amazing.
I think we've come up with pantry fancy, yes we can fancy, all the mantras we want for this recipe. I think is great.
Yes, and this is definitely can fancy, so.
Yes. I will also say that we are live on Facebook and we have an amazing team behind us. If you have any questions, you can put it in on Facebook and it'll be coming to me. So if you have any questions, please shout out and we'll try to answer them. Okay, so we're gonna start by chatting a little bit about the wine. And this is a really special episode and a special wine because of the place where the wine's from, as well as the grape varietal that we're tasting. So the wine we're tasting this week is Casa Silva Carmenere. Specifically,
beautiful this is.
Yeah, a single vineyard called Los Lingues. So we are in Chile for this episode. And Julie and I were just talking about this, and basically this is a wine that you put your nose in, and we'll talk a lot more about the tasting notes later, but like you smell this wine and it is the Los Lingues Carmenere. It is so distinctive and it has such a personality, and you just want to keep smelling it. This wine has so much character. I love it.
Definitely.
And so this vineyard, Julie was mentioning that this is the first vineyard you ever went to in Chile.
It is. I literally got off the plane, drove straight to Casa Silva, straight to this vineyard. So what a great introduction to Chile this was. And I will never forget that. I remember just how the vineyard itself smelled. It was really hot outside, and it was just like the most picturesque place you could imagine. And then the grapes that come from this vineyard are just incredible.
Yeah. So that was in 2013. And crazily enough, a few days later, that is the first time that Julie and I met, was in that trip. So this wine has a lot of soul. It's got a lot of meaning behind it, just at the start. what's really fun with Facebook Live is that you're also seeing some fun pictures. So I guess I can go like this, and here's some pictures of the fingers. And it is so breathtaking. Pictures can't even do it fully justice, even though those are beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So let's chat about Carmenere. So Carmenere is one of those grapes that is very emblematic of Chile. Many people call it a flagship grape of Chile. But I think many people want to make this parallel that, Malbec to Argentina is Carmenere to Chile. Yes, maybe in the fact that many people know of Carmenere being from Chile or being a very emblematic grape. But the difference is that Malbec is the most planted grape in Argentina. Carmenere is not. The most planted grape varietal in Chile is actually Cabernet Sauvignon. And Carmenere is less than 8% of the plantings of grape varietals in Chile. So it's actually a smaller percent than many people think. And within that group of planting, there's really only a select few vineyards that make the best Carmeneres from Chile. And so this wine is a single vineyard wine from this area called Los Lingues. And Los Lingues is one of the most premium places really in the world to grow the grape Carmenere. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that when we're starting to taste the wine. But as I alluded to as we were leading up to this episode this week, Carmenere, as a grape varietal, has a nickname. And its nickname is the Lost Grape of Bordeaux. It's the most mysterious nickname in the world, and I absolutely love it. Like, I would think we should make T-shirts that say the Lost Grape of Bordeaux. And the reason why is that the area of Bordeaux in France has 6 main grape varietals that many of us are familiar with. Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Malbec, and the 6th one is Carmenere. So the 1800s is when the vines from Bordeaux started arriving to Chile as there was more travel back and forth between the countries. And so when they first started planting vineyards in Chile from these vines from France, they basically started planting them as red Bordeaux vineyards and white Bordeaux vineyards. So over time, they started actually labeling the different grape varietals. And because Merlot and Carmenere have very similar grape clusters and leaf shapes, all of the Carmenere that was planted was mistakenly labeled as Merlot. So over time, there'd be a vineyard of Merlot in Chile, and Chilean winemakers would see these Merlot vineyards develop over the season, and certain vineyard rows, vine rows, would turn a really beautiful yellow in the fall, the leaf color. And then a few weeks later, a different row of Merlot would turn a crimson red. And so instead of thinking, oh, well, maybe this is a different grape varietal, they started calling the red leafed Merlot Chilean Merlot, or Merlot, or late harvest Merlot. So basically every other name you could call this grape without thinking that it's actually a different varietal. So ironically, fast forward, it took a Frenchman who was studying the identification of grape varietals in Chile, called an ampelographer. He was walking the vines in Chile and passed this Chilean Merlot, and he looks at it and he's like, this is not Merlot, but I don't know what it is. So he brought cuttings back to France with him, took a genetic test of these vines, and realized not only is this not Merlot, but this is Carmenere, and this is original rootstock Carmenere from Pre-Phylloxera, France. So what does that mean? In France, when these vines came over, this was before a really big devastation happened in Europe. This phylloxera, louse called phylloxera, really wiped out viticulture. So all the Europeans had to replant their vineyards. The French people in Bordeaux did not replant Carmenere because A, it didn't do well in a grafting process, and really most importantly, Carmenere is a very late ripener. So in the climate of Bordeaux, 9 times out of 10, you're not getting a ripe Carmenere crop. So it wasn't a financially stable decision to replant Carmenere. So as Carmenere disappeared from Bordeaux, it actually was living and thriving in Chile, but everyone thought it was Merlot. So from the 1800s forward, Chileans thought it was Merlot up until 1994 when this discovery happened, which is a really long time to think that it's a different grape varietal. And so basically Chilean winemakers kind of huddled and were like, oh God, like we messed up for a long time. Like, do we tell the world that we made this mistake? And ultimately, yes, they did. And they really said, you know what? Well, why don't we take ownership of being the best place to grow Carmenere in the world. So what happened is that a lot of the winemakers in Chile were still harvesting Carmenere like Merlot, which is an earlier ripening grape. So a lot of the first Carmeneres coming out of Chile were very green. And so many people thought that that's really what Carmenere should taste like. And then they tried to over oak the wines, and that's not a good decision. It's kind of like drinking chocolate covered green bell peppers, which no one wants to do. We will never make those on Community Kitchen. So what they needed to do is find the best way to grow Carmenere and make Carmenere in the winery. So Casa Silva, the winery behind this wine, really took ownership and became the leaders of research and development for studying Carmenere as a varietal, and more specifically studying the best terroir, so the soil and the climate and the other outstanding circumstances to grow Carmenere. So they searched a lot of different places in Chile, and they ended up being the pioneers to plant in this area called Los Lingues. And there's a lot of kind of nerdy, more soil things to get into that please DM me if you'd like. We can chat soil all day long, but it's very much this Goldilocks terroir, where the soil from the foothills of the Andes, which is a bigger rock type of soil, combines with smaller soil stones from the rivers coming from the Andes to the ocean. So that kind of mosaic of stones within the soil creates great drainage for Carmenere. So when it's being irrigated, the drainage of the water can go through really quickly, which the plant of Carmenere really likes, in comparison to Merlot, which likes more hydration in its soil. So that is the background of Carmenere and its story, and that is the background of Los Lingues 101 as the single vineyard behind this wine. So I would say, because of the onset of Carmenere, that the wines that really weren't so good, there's a lot of people in the US that really thought that's what Carmenere should taste like, chocolate covered green bell peppers. That's not true. So when Casa Silva started making Carmenere specifically from this vineyard, this bottle of Carmenere, as I've presented it over the past 7 years, this single-handedly has changed people's minds about Carmenere as a grape varietal. And in addition, I've showed it to a lot of organizations that are educators of wine, and they now educate their wine students about Carmenere as a varietal with this wine, because it is the textbook characteristic and expression of what Carmenere should taste like as a grape. So that's really the 101 of Carmenere. And what's great is, again, with Julie's brilliance of food and wine tasting pairing, there's so many elements in this dish that completely light this wine up. So I can't wait to hear more about it.
Absolutely. I think before we get started, though, we need to have our cheers, our community cheers.
And we were sipping before because we were talking about aromatics. So cheers, Chica.
So cheers.
Yay. Cheers to smelling Los Lingues and the brilliant.
No chocolate covered green bell pepper for sure. So let's jump into this recipe. This recipe is kind of bringing a lot of flavors together that work well with this wine, from smoky flavors to nice bright acidity to even some greens that work with that kind of underlying peppery current. So this is a basic stew that you can alter in many different ways. I'll give you some ideas along the way. I'm just heating up my pot here, and I'm going to add my olive oil, a few tablespoons.
Awesome.
And to this, I have some chopped yellow onion. You could use red onion, any kind of onion you have. I also have some minced garlic. And then I do have our friend, the green bell pepper. And I think actually the green bell pepper works nicely with this wine, even though the wine doesn't have that flavor. Just the specific flavor of the green bell pepper is really nice. So I'm going to add all of this to the pot and just let it kind of soften up.
I would say, Julie, that many people ask about the pepper element in Carmenere. So I think there's a spectrum of ripeness in Carmenere and how it expresses itself in the bottle and in the glass. So what I note for really well-made Carmeneres, it's something like, you have a red bell pepper and you're roasting it. So it's more of that like smokier red bell pepper sort of aromatic and flavor, and like a green peppercorn. And so you're getting a little bit of that
definitely.
spiciness of the green peppercorn and a
Yep.
roasted pepper.
And also for the peppers, if you had red bell peppers, yellow bell peppers, orange bell peppers, you wanted to add, that is perfect as well. I like the flavor of the green in this particular dish. So that's what I'm choosing to do. Now my vegetables are softening up. And then the herbs that I've chosen today, I'm going to go ahead and put in now, because if you put dried herbs in with a fat that is cooking, that fat is going to latch onto the herbs and bring out more flavor. So if you're not using fresh herbs, that's one way to really intensify the dried herbs. So I've chosen oregano today. So I've got some dried oregano. And then I also have these beautiful bay leaves. And they just add this nice kind of sweet, almost minty, savory quality. And it's really nice to put in a stew. You want to take it out, though, before you eat the stew, because it is definitely a tough leaf. So I'm just going to saute this, flying bay leaf, saute that in as well. And then I also have, my friend, the smoked Spanish paprika, which is always my go-to spice. And this is going to add the beautiful smoky quality to this dish, as well as some nice color. So this is just made from smoked chili peppers. And it already smells so wonderful. And once you add that in with the olive oil, again, the olive oil is going to pick up the spice and latch onto it and just intensify it.
I love it. Honestly, just these ingredients alone is like you are building all of the notes of the taste of the wine, the flavors of the wine.
Exactly. We are going layer by layer, just like this wine has different layers. So the tomatoes I've selected, we're going straight out of the pantry. I happen to love stewed tomatoes. I think they're fabulous. So what's in a stewed tomato? It usually has celery, some kind of bell pepper, some onion, garlic. It's really wonderful when you make them yourself, but canned is a great option. And these are made with Roma tomatoes, which are halves. So I'm just going to kind of break them up a little bit in the pot. And then I also have some really wonderful fire roasted tomatoes. These happen to have a little bit of green chili in them as well, which is great. You can add green chilies to this dish, or even jalapenos if you wanted to spice it up a little bit. I'm serving this to my kids later. They tend to be a little more on the mild side, so I'm not going to do the jalapeno root, but that would be delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got that mixed in. And then we're getting to the star of the show, the Butterbean.
Woo!
So what is a Butterbean? Well, our friend the Butterbean, these little beans, are basically lima beans. But you may think of lima beans as this bright green big bean that you hated to eat as a kid. Maybe your mom bought them frozen and they were really awful. Well, these are the creamy colored variety. There's different varieties of lima beans. People in the South tend to call them butter beans because they really do have a creamy kind of buttery flavor. And these are just canned. You can find them like this, butter beans. But if you didn't have butter beans, I have some cannellini beans as well. They're a little bit smaller.
Nice.
But also work perfectly well. So I'm going to add in my butter beans. These are also called gigante beans in Italy. You might see those in salads or pasta dishes, but I think they're really fun. And actually, I like the canned variety the best. They're nice and mellow and kind of soak up the flavor of whatever you're putting them in. So I've added my beans. And then next, I happen to love okra. Some people hate okra, but I really love it. Some people say, oh, it's too slimy. And that's because okra, they're actually edible seed pods. They're about this long. These are sliced, so you can't see that, but they have a lot of seeds inside. And they have a little bit of a mucus kind of membrane around them. But that is actually fiber. So okra is really high in fiber. It's actually high in B vitamins and vitamin K and vitamin C. So it's a really healthy vegetable. This is frozen. And I'm going to go ahead and just add it right into the pot in its frozen form. Turn up the heat a little bit. And in this kind of a preparation, you're not going to notice any kind of slimy quality to it. The other ingredients and the texture is just going to soak all that up. So I think the okra adds a nice flavor too.
So up until this point, Julie, you've chopped only 3 things, right? The pepper, the onion, and the garlic.
The onion, the pepper, and the garlic, super easy. The rest was like using my can opener to get things open.
Amazing.
I also have some vegetable broth that I'm going to add. This was a broth I made just like from random pieces of vegetables that I had left over from any number of things. You could use chicken broth if you're not concerned about keeping it vegetarian. This is just going to add a little more liquid so it can cook down and the flavor can intensify. And then, lastly, I have my fresh ingredients. I have some beautiful kale here.
Love it.
Yes. Another nice ingredient would be collard greens or mustard greens would be wonderful for a little bit of a peppery flavor. If you don't have fresh greens, you could use frozen greens as well. It's really easy to find frozen greens now because greens have become very popular. So I'm just going to add all the greens in there and give it a nice stir. And you just want these to cook down. And you're going to let this whole pot simmer for a while and just kind of intensify the flavors. If you feel like you need a little more liquid, you can add some more vegetable broth or even a little bit of water. Very easy to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lid on here for a few minutes and just let everything kind of cook down.
Totally.
And we can talk a little bit more about Casa Silva while we wait for that.
I love it. First of all, I love the color of your pot. That I have Le Creuset crushes right now in the pot. That's amazing.
Yeah, and this is like an ideal pot to use for this recipe. If you don't have a pot like this, you could use a big, heavy skillet, something that's deep enough for all the ingredients, or really any kind of sauce pot. This is also a great recipe to double because you could freeze it in little portions. And at the end, you can serve it over rice, you could serve it over pasta, or you can just eat it on its own. It's super versatile. Something that's great to make a big batch and then portion it out, and you can freeze it and pull it out as you want to use it.
I love it. Brilliant, Rubia, brilliant. So I was thinking that we can talk about the Valley of Colchagua, where the wine is actually, where the winery is and where the vineyard Los Inges is. So we always go on a virtual journey when we're on Community Kitchen. So when we're traveling to Chile all together, we're going to fly from our airports in the U.S. and land in Santiago, which is the capital of the country and the centrifuge of the country, right in the middle, smack in the middle of the country. That's a really long country. The length of Chile is essentially the width of the U.S., so very, very long, very, very skinny, average 120 miles. So when we land in Santiago, we're all going to get in a van together, and we're going to drive down the main highway about an hour and a half, and we're going to get to the Colchagua Valley. So there are many different valleys north to south in the wine regions of Chile. Colchagua, I really draw a parallel and consider it like the Napa Valley of Chile for 2 main reasons. One is that it's one of the most visited valleys in Chile. So there's a wine tour you can go on, and you can kind of do a winery hop like you would somewhere like Napa, although the wineries are more farther apart than, say, Silverado Trail. And the second reason is that it's very renowned for red wines, mainly, including the grape varietal of Carmenere. So Carmenere thrives there. There's also excellent Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot from the valley. Although Casa Silva has been a pioneer of really stretching the valley east and west. So they also were pioneers on the coastal region of Colchagua and plant more, cool climate varietals like Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, and they make excellent wines in the coast of Colchagua as well. So Casa Silva is now a 6th generation winery, if you can believe that. They started in the 1800s. This family is actually originally from France, and they came over to Chile, so it's literally embodying the story of Carmenere as well. And they, again, took on this role of being the leaders of research and development for Carmenere really in the 90s. And the 90s is also when they first planted Los Lingues. And really what has changed minds in people around the world is that Carmenere can be considered one of these really premium varietals, along with Cabernet Sauvignon, along with Merlot in the world of wines. And I would say, you know, when we take trips down to Chile, I usually go with wine professionals, and our entire day with Casa Silva is called the Carmenere Crash Course, which is as fun as it sounds. It's also as nerdy as it sounds, but it's really fun. So we start the day by going to Los Lingues, and we go to the vineyard site, and we check out the soil, and we understand what the soil means with both the Andes and the river stones. And we see the different rows of Carmenere. There's also a clonal vineyard that they're doing a lot of testing of, you know, the question of, has Carmenere evolved to have different clones over time as it's lived in Chile for many years? And then we go to the winery. The winery, there's very much a rich culture of rodeo and also polo in the area of Colchagua. So we see a rodeo demonstration. There's also this wine called Old Vine Sauvignon Gris, which is grown there, which is kind of like a mutation of Sauvignon Blanc, which also has a fascinating history. Having a bite of tuna ceviche with that Sauvignon Gris in that moment is pretty much the best thing ever.
It is.
I think it's one of Julie and I's favorite moments in Chile. The rodeo area is also literally one of the most magical eucalyptus forests you'll ever go into. And that smell that you smell going into the eucalyptus forest, if anyone's ever been to California or Golden Gate Park or the forests that are here, luckily it's where I live, I get to smell it all the time and feel like I'm in Chile. But that is such an aromatic of an experience in Chile, right? Like, can't you feel like you're smelling that smell?
Oh, completely. And you even find that underlying in the wines.
Yes.
It's just like this very subtle, very pleasant hint of that wonderful eucalyptus.
Yes. So when we put our noses in the wine, so when you pour a great glass of Carmenere, and I really hope you can find this bottle, and we will help you find it, because I think everyone should try what great Carmenere should taste like, and you fall in love with it. It's kind of like Cabernet Sauvignon and Malbec at a bake. And why is that? Because it has the structure and the spice of Cabernet Sauvignon, but it has this richness of depth of fruit and a little softer tannin that Malbec would have. So it's like this love child of those two. And I love tasting this wine at consumer events, because people end up falling in love. So on the aromatics, like we were talking about, when you put your nose into a Los Lingues Carmenere, immediately I smell lots of blackberries, lots of violet flowers, and then I start getting layers of like smoky tobacco, some red fruits as well, a lot of that peppery spice. And Julie, you had an actually amazing description for this wine before we started.
I said that it tasted like toasted cocoa bean cherry silk. Because it really does. You got that little bit of smoky chocolate, not the chocolate bell peppers, but just this hint of like smoky, dry cocoa bean flavor.
Yes.
With this like beautiful silky cherry lace texture. It's amazing. Just amazing.
I love it.
I'm just going to go ahead and taste my stew here. I've seasoned it with some sea salt and pepper. And I'm going to see, ideally you want to let this cook down a little bit more, but we'll see how it's doing here.
Yep.
And it has just great texture, the smokiness. It's got the tartness from the tomatoes and just this brightness from all of the greens.
It's like a bowl of health. It's such a healthy.
And it's amazingly perfect with this wine. And what I love about this wine too is a lot of people think of Carmenere as being like, oh, that's this heavy, really, robust kind of wine. No, that is not the case here. This wine has finesse, and it has a lightness to it and a liftedness to it that pairs so well with food. because it has this underlying acidity that works perfectly with a dish like this.
Amen. It literally, I think we've batted 1,000 at the end of every Carmenere crash course we've had. We've gone to vineyard sites. We've tasted different soil selections of Carmenere. We've tasted different vineyard sites of Carmenere, and we've also tasted aged Carmenere from Casa Silva. It is the most mind-blowing aha moment for people, and just elevates to another universe. And it's so exciting because when people find that finesse in this wine, it's like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know about this grape. Also, this bottle is $20, which is crazy time. Crazy. So, as always, we have this bottle, more information about the wine, as well as the other wines we have from Chile and Argentina. We have the recipes from Community Kitchen on there, as well as past recipes, future recipes, and the wines we pair them with. So please send us a message. We will find the wine for you and get it to you. It is our honor and pleasure. We want everyone drinking some goodness. Hey, look at
this.
I want some crusty bread, and I'm
telling you. And did you see how easy that was?
Yeah,
I mean, this is so easy and so versatile.
Crazy.
And just a single recipe makes so much, and it's so healthy, which we should all be trying to eat really healthy right now.
Totally.
But it's a beautiful pairing with this wine. So,
amen. Julie, you're brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. I love cooking with you, even just virtually.
Thank you for the wine education today.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure, always. And thank you everyone who joined us today and who can watch this after. That's the beauty of Facebook Live. And cheers to all of you. And we will be here next week at 3 p.m. And, oh, geez, the next wine. Do you want to talk about it? I'll go get the bottle.
Oh, and we're going to just throw down for World Malbec Day. We have such a special producer, Jimena Lopez, who makes amazing wines. And her Graffito Malbec is just, it's just so delicious. So we want to celebrate the Malbec grape that day, celebrate producers like Jimena. And I have a really tasty polenta recipe that works as an appetizer or even as a main dish. We're going to pull out mushrooms and some cheesiness, and it's just going to be delicious.
I love it. I love it. We can't wait to celebrate Malbec. We can't wait to celebrate Jimena. And cheers to all of you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Bye, Maria. Cheers.